Hello everybody, welcome to another GP's Chalk Talk session. Today we're going to talk about mobile kits again. Now I've kind of talked about that in some previous sessions. 2020 was the hustle year, figure out some avenues of how we would manage some of these solutions, such as remote guests, and different types of technologies that were available. And so I've brought in team SiteUnseen and going to introduce them here in just a moment. We're going to talk about their solution in the mobile kit space, how they're handling that, both from a mobile type of production element, as well as what they do back into the remote production team and how they manage the whole process from end to end, really, so to speak, right? And using some of their solutions. So we'll get to them in just a moment, but I want to thank you for joining this session and welcome to the channel. If you're new to the channel, love to hear your comments and thoughts, share your feedback. If you would be so kind, subscribe to the channel. And, when you share your comments, it helps with the YouTube algorithms, as you all know. I think everybody says that on YouTube nowadays. We all say that one way or the other. But essentially, look, if you like this video and it's helpful for you, hit the like button, ring the bell, get notified when a video is added, and you'll get notified, obviously, through the internet stratosphere. And as well as when you do subscribe, this whole point of this channel is about community, right? And developing a way we can engage with each other, obviously talk about creating, streaming and delivering, right? Or connecting, streaming and delivering and doing that. So without further ado, let's bring Team SiteUnseen in and talk to them about their solution, and let's get going. Kevin, Brian, how are you guys? Or Brian and Kevin, how are you both?
We're well. Thanks, John.
Doing very well, John. Thank you.
So pleased to have you guys with us today, talk about your solution. I know we've been trying to kind of figure out a date and time to kind of get this all put together because you guys have been extremely busy because of your solution. Maybe let's just take a moment to let you introduce yourselves real quick, maybe a quick background, and then we'll jump into about what the solution is and about SiteUnseen and what you guys are focused on doing. So maybe Kevin, we can start with you.
Great. So my name is Kevin Groh. I come from the live events industry. I'm actually a live technical producer who specialized in video and automation and kind of all the pieces, not as much scenic as a normal technical director. When this all hit, we kind of had to completely pivot because our entire business was made on public shows, and obviously that's not something that's happening right now. So I've got about 25 years in the live events industry, and so this is just another step, another chapter, if you will.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and same type of story for me, Brian Bovito. Kevin and I work together a lot in live events, a lot of great clients and trade shows and press events, and anything that was thrown at us, we tackled and handled. Kevin was always my main IT support for all of our infrastructures, and my background is mainly audio. And then obviously audio's turned into networking, and networking has led to creating this beast that we have now. So here we are.
That's well, and thank you guys once again so much for your time, and I really do appreciate it. I'm really I've been very stoked to have this conversation with you guys because I think this is an important topic that we look at in 2021 of, Kevin, as you mentioned, kind of when the pandemic hit, where these solutions were all going, and how do we develop that, right? And cameras and different technologies. So maybe we jump into talking about SiteUnseen and your solution, if you will, of really what the main focus is and what you guys are trying to accomplish between the mobile kit that you've developed and the process and the workflow in a virtual production environment. So
yeah, you want me to go, Kevin?
I'm gonna let you run first on this one.
Well, I'll start just because this was my whole crazy idea to start with, and I started working on this insanity and asked Kevin to come on board. But Yeah, I mean, the big thing for us was trying to keep helping the clients that we already had established over all the years to continue. Obviously, we knew it was going to go to all virtual events, and how are we going to make that easy? And we were thinking of it from the standpoint of having these relationships with a lot of these high-end executives and so on and so forth. For all these years, we're like, we have to design it for, whoever, executive XYZ, 'cause he has to be able to set this up in his home, he or she, and this has to be simple. And every step that we went through with building it out, we just thought, oh no, that's too complicated. They're not going to understand that part. We have to make it easier. And so that was, from our standpoint, it was the big process of not geeking out too much, taking out our pocket protectors, as I kept saying, and just focusing on the ease of setup and very robust product with redundancy, with backup plans in place. So, because again, us coming from the live event side, we had redundant everything because the show can't fail. So, which is definitely a mind shift coming into the streaming world and getting into that. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and I think that's the important part of it. We think about the business continuance, right? And that was really kind of what we were really trying to address from a corporate level with some of the events that would typically take place in a physical environment, like you guys may have dealt with in terms of an actual corporate event or some type of an event activity, even in the broadcasting world, at a location. Now we're kind of virtualizing that process a bit. Obviously, from an online video and streaming, you're bringing networking, you're bringing other elements, and redundancy has to be in place, right? Obviously, to make sure from an online connectivity piece. But I've been very impressed, right? You really kind of streamlined the physical form factor, right? With the approach of delivering the ease of use as best as you can. Now, as part of that process, you've kind of implemented, various components like the camera and the audio and addressing some of those things that are common for an interview or a presentation. But you're also incorporating like vMix, right, as part of the process, where you can also offer the ability to, in a way, what we call video backhaul, the signal acquisition back into your production process, where you can really kind of manage it and really run the event for a corporation or anybody.
Yeah. And, Kevin can talk about this more, but Kevin and Connie, who's on our IT team, they handled some pretty high level corporate IT issues and security over the years, and to bring them in and be able to talk with corporate IT, that was the part that I had no knowledge of. And so they handle building that whole back end. So, and we've run into a lot of situations where we've had to have some long talks with corporate IT to get things sussed out and make them happy and make us happy and make the producers happy and so on and so forth. So yeah, so that end of it is so far beyond. Obviously, the cameras and audio and so on and so forth are so important, but that connectivity is to the ability to deliver a signal to anyone anywhere is the challenge. So yeah,
absolutely. And I think so. Well, maybe let's take a moment and a step back just for a moment. What is, maybe kind of give some people an overview of the setup of the kit. What is, some of the features, what's the process that somebody may go through, and, from, how they work with you guys. Is there, what's the physical makeup in as far as, and then obviously the process and the workflow to make it all run.
Yeah. Sure. Well, Kevin and Connie will handle the IT side. So the most important thing is doing an advance on IT, just to see what we're coming up against. And surprisingly, not surprisingly, with where some people have bugged out to since the pandemic started, we've run into some extremely challenging situations, to say the least, like speeds of, I don't know, Kevin, what have we seen? Some like 4 down and 1 up speeds, 4 down, 2 up.
Yeah. I mean, almost like old T1, 1.5 type speeds, which is just incredible.
Yeah, and to think that people have been working that whole time with those speeds too is just mind blowing. How are they even having calls? How are they doing anything from this location? So we have to take it case by case. What are we going to do? Okay, well, that connectivity is useless. So what works there. Okay, AT&T is good. Great. We're going to set AT&T as our main failover or main primary connection from that location with our cellular setup and the kits. So it's a lot of that, starting with that, because that's all of our worry is the connectivity right out of the gates. But we had some really simple instructions. With all of our stuff, the setup part was so easy, and everybody was so worried about it because people were receiving so many cases of equipment from companies to set up. We had heard more than one story about people receiving 5, 6, 7 Pelican cases full of gear. And no joke, we heard about one 40-page manual on setting up your home streaming setup. And we're like, well, that definitely isn't going to work. So ours is just a few laminated sheets, very simple pictures and instructions. Everything is pre-wired. That's a big part for us, is that everything is captive. And it's literally one piece of hardware. It's an Ethernet line. It's one power line. It's pressing 2 power buttons, and that's it. It's up and running, and we're connected and going. So there isn't a lot to talk about because there isn't a lot for people to do. So
that's good.
Which is good.
And to sort of expand on that, that's really what took us some time to get it to market, was the fact that we weren't in the equipment business. So we didn't say, oh, well, we've got XYZ sitting on the shelf, we've got to redo that. This was a complete ground up thing. And really it was an education in a lot of different curriculums for all of us to kind of make it happen. So we tried to make it, because we'd worked with so many executives in the live event field, we tried to make it to where it was anybody could set it up. Even somebody who was a professed non-technical person could look at it and not be intimidated, because it's stuff they recognize. It's not, it's not broadcast gear. It's professional, but the first thing they see is a laptop. They probably have a laptop. So that it already gives them kind of a comfort level when they first open the case. It's like, oh, I can actually identify some of this stuff.
Right. Yeah, it looks familiar. Yeah. It's not unfamiliar territory, right? Where people, I think, get overwhelmed by the complexity, especially when I use the term live streaming or we use the term webcasting. And, at that point, people are probably like, okay, I'm not following, right? And I think that's one of the challenges we face. Certainly we faced last year, as you guys have kind of, covered. And the challenge is trying to help, as the online video space is mushroomed, certainly over the time that I've done it, where now, we're thinking about, okay, how do we make this simplify the process in 2021? How do we continue to reduce the complexity, but also ensure that we're providing the right level of quality of experience, which you're talking about when they first open the kit and interface with it, to the overall quality of service. Brian, you were talking about networking, and Kevin about, security. That's a big one, right? We need to make sure that we're providing the right level of some guarantees, if you will, or service line agreements in the IT world, use a term back in the day, where we're really trying to provide a certain level of value and making sure that we're addressing the need for the customer or the client. The other part of it that you guys have kind of developed too is production kits, and giving ways for, it may not be the person behind the camera or in front of the camera, but the person that's communicating with you guys into production, providing comms and different approaches using stream decks and different things that I've seen on your website. And I've been very impressed by how you've kind of taken some deliberate, focus and thought through that.
Well, in the live event industry, it was really funny. Everybody, they knew they had to have comm, even though I might be sitting 6 feet away from you, John. I've got to be able to communicate with you. Right. Now, you're 600 miles away or 1,000 miles away. So backstage is just a really huge nebulous thing now that we have to connect. And that's where the production kits came in. And we really took that, we took a lot of hard looks at that as to how to do it, make it easy for a stage manager or somebody, again, not technical, but in our industry, to be able to do it and feel comfortable.
Absolutely. And I think that's important. Okay, go ahead, Brian.
No, I was just going to say that it was funny how, and Kevin can attest to this, is that the production kit build out went hand in hand, or we probably started thinking it almost before the presenter kit, because, well, we have to have comm and we have to have point-to-point discussions, like,
Mhm.
people trying to do comm over vMix or Zoom or whatever, like it just doesn't work. So we knew that was going to be an integral part of it. And I mean, every presenter kit we ship out, even our B kits that we're building now, have a seed of Unity comm in it, so we can talk, do point-to-point IFB talk to every presenter. I mean, you have to have it. You have to have it. So
Absolutely, right? We kind of have to work backwards and really look at from the end user perspective when the interface, in the technology world, we generally look at that, but well, we hope we do. And so, I think in the same area or the space now that we see technology and the integration with media and really the convergence just, again, mushrooming is one way I look at it. We really need to think about the end user and how do we help them, feel comfortable, right? Because it is we say new norm, we use different terms like this right now, but it really is a new a different workflow. And
Sure.
so that requires us to have a little bit more hands-on, be compassionate because of the situation we're dealing with, the pandemic and various things that are going on in the respective spaces. So absolutely, you guys have done a phenomenal job. And so as far as for people to get in and follow up with you guys in terms of the kits and that process of reaching out, and we'll provide links obviously and some other information when people see the session, what's the first step, right? What would be the first step for somebody to reach out and make contact? Is it just going to the website? Is there a questionnaire?
Yeah, no, just contact us through the website. That's fine. And that's really the best way to get the ball rolling. And, we don't have a turnkey one size fits all solution. Like I said, we're building these new kits. We have a lot of solutions, and it can be, you just need to do a Zoom meeting and it's has to be reliable, or you need to send HD signals to a control room somewhere. We're here to help. So whatever you need, and we'll customize it for it.
So I'm really excited for these guys and for the technology and the solution to see this, because I think from a webcast producer in my space, trying to figure out these, okay, get a kit. Who do we talk to, right? Well, there's SiteUnseen, and let's pull them in and let's talk to them and see if we can get them. And I think this is a really neat solution. And I think there's some great use cases beyond just the corporate events. Before I would be remiss to forget that, Kevin, I think when we talked on a previous phone call, you had mentioned that there's other use cases for these kits in terms of like news media organizations and
Absolutely.
a variety of different use type approaches to it.
There are a lot of things that we didn't even think about that people have brought, have said, this is what we need to do. And then we look at the solution we built and we're like, well, we can do that. So it's really because of its flexibility and because of the amount of thought that went into it, they've become very, very useful in revenue streams we never even thought about, honestly.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, go
I was
for
going
it.
to say, like always, the market dictates. The famous stories about apps that everybody uses, but they were designed for something else completely, and then people said, "Oh, but I can do this with it." Like, okay,
Right.
Great, do that with it. Yeah, but no, it is. It's amazing what can be done. And then to Kevin's point as well, we've had so many things where, like because of it having vMix in it, it's a standalone vMix studio as well with audio interfaces, with cellular redundancy. Like, we can use it for that, for a bunch of breakout rooms. Like, yeah, sure, whatever you want to use it for. Yeah. So multitude of uses.
That's fantastic. Okay, so we're going to leave everybody a little bit of a cliffhanger, because we're going to set the stage for part 2. That's what I want to do in this session. And I want to thank both Kevin and Brian for your time. Your contribution, you guys are supporting in terms of the overall live streaming community and online activities and things that we're trying to, at the end of the day, we're all trying to work towards the same goal, and that is support the customer and the client, right?
Absolutely.
We're trying to provide value and benefit to those we are working with, and that are asking for us to bring in our expertise to help them accomplish what they need to do. So I'm super excited, and I really do thank you again for both your time. I know you guys are extremely busy, in demand, so thank you to both of you.
No worries. Great.
And
thanks, John.
Absolutely. And thank you everybody for joining this session. Again, if you have questions, comments, leave them. Let us know. Give us 2 or 3 things you learned from this video, right? What was interesting to you? If you want to follow up with Brian or Kevin, again, we can go to the website or, reach out to me. I'm happy to make any connections we can if you have a need. But I want everybody to stay safe, continue to stay safe, stay well, and we'll talk to you in the next session.